Time to get started. I just wanted to say before we start, good afternoon and welcome to all of you here today. It's great to see so many people here to be involved in their local government. I do want to say welcome to all of our elected officials, our magistrates, and I don't want to go through and name them all here, but there's quite a few out here, and all of our department heads here. Just appreciate all of you being here. And so at that, again, just a quick note about cell phones. If you haven't thought about it, you might want to turn those off or put them on stun or whatever you need to do, vibrate, so that we don't have that interruption. Okay, so this is the April 25th, 2023 Hardin County Fiscal Court regular voting meeting. So let's start our meeting. We'll call the meeting to order. If you would go ahead, our County Clerk, Brian Smith, and go ahead and have the roll call.
Squire Clem. Squire Hicks.
Here.
Squire Muse.
Here.
Squire Pennington.
Here.
Squire Saltzman.
Here.
Squire Thompson.
Here.
Squire Whitehead.
Here.
Squire Yates.
Here.
Judge Taul.
Here. So we're going to have our invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance. Invocation by Magistrate Kenny Saltzman and Pledge of Allegiance by Magistrate Kenny Muse. And if we stand to do that.
Bow your heads with me, please. Father God, we thank you for this time that we can be here today to do the business of our county. Father, we pray that you would be with each and every one of us, help us to make the right decisions for our county today. I pray that you would be with our first responders, be with our military, home and abroad. Father, I thank you for each and every magistrate, the judge executive here, Lord. I pray that you would continue to bless them and their families and just watch over us today. Help us to do what is right for you and for this county. And Father, we pray that whatever is said and done today would glorify you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, so again, I just want to thank everyone for joining us today and participating. Just a quick review of the agenda. It's a few slight differences than what we've seen so far. As we move on into, obviously we'll approve the minutes as the next item, and then we have some informational items as usual, some different departments and their reports, some presentations, some written. We've also, I'll go through and give a brief explanation of where we are with the 2023-2024 budget proposal. And after that, we'll have some time for any concerns or comments from any of you citizens that are here today that want to do that. And then after that, we will go into some ordinances, resolutions. We have 3 of those to vote on today. And then, as usual, we have a consent agenda that has some just some basic resolutions and things that need to be voted on. We'll just do all those at once. I'll go through and explain what they are before we vote on those. And then we'll just end with some comments. Okay, so that's our agenda. We have a few extra I can see in the container up here. If anybody wants one of those, you can grab it. All right, so I guess what we need to do next is approve the Fiscal Court for April 11th, 2023 minutes. And so do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'd have a roll call.
Squire Clem.
Yes.
Squire Hicks.
Yes.
Squire Muse.
Yes.
Squire Pennington.
Yes.
Squire Saltzman.
Yes.
Squire Thompson.
Yes.
Squire Whitehead.
Yes.
Squire Yates.
Yes.
Judge Taul.
Yes, motion passes. All right, let's move on into our informational items, and we'll start with our department and office reports. So our first presentation is from the coroner, and I believe you don't look like Pat Elmore. So you just want to introduce yourself to everyone?
Sure. My name is Shana Norton. I'm a deputy coroner here at the coroner's office. Today we'll be reviewing the first quarter report of the year for our office. As you can see, in January, we worked 109 cases for Hardin County, 7 of them being accidents, 96 of them natural, and 6 of them suicides. As you see, of the 7 accidents, 5 of them, unfortunately, were overdoses. For the month of February, we worked 76 total cases, 5 accident, 69 natural, and 2 suicides. 4 of those accidents were overdoses. For the month of March, we worked 73 cases, 3 accident, 69 natural, and 1 suicide. 2 of those accidents were overdoses. For the 4-year date comparison, you can see we are down 1 autopsy from last year. Cremations are significantly down from last year. We have had no county cremations this year or last year. As you see, EMS did have to transport 2 back to the morgue of the first quarter, and that was due to 2 cases going on at the same time. So our transport vehicle was at another scene, and we had to have EMS transport back to the office. And then the coroner's office did transport 38 cases during the first quarter back to the coroner's office. The last slide shows the residency of the decedents. And you can see at 43% were from Elizabethtown, 2% from Glendale, 22% out of Radcliffe, 5% Vine Grove, 2% Sonora, 1% West Point, 9% the unincorporated, and 16% from out of county and or out of state. Have any questions?
I see we have 9 deaths by fentanyl, so I guess we're a border state, border county.
Yeah, and I would say roughly probably 3% of those were not Hardin County residents. They were other residents that came into the county and unfortunately overdosed here.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Shane.
All right, next is our sheriff, John Ward.
Good evening, Judge, Magistrates, Clerk, County Attorney, fellow Hardin County citizens, county officials, and guests. The February-March Sheriff's Office activity report is as follows. 158 arrests, 283 citations, 150 warrants served, 781 civil papers, 856 complaints, 73 accidents investigated, 64 criminal cases open, and 2,829 other activities. 826 school safety checks, 85 violation warnings issued, 1,918 attempts to serve. In office operations, we had 83 records checks, 302 concealed carry permits issued, vehicle inspections, 1,403. Court transportation, transported 48 adults to court, 6 juveniles, and 81 in-state transports. Next slide. In this profession, there's many things that we do and train for that we hope and pray that we never have to utilize this training. And this is just a slide showing some of our school resource officers in active shooter training that they participated in here recently. Next slide. As all of you know, we've had some severe weather the last couple of months that came through our county, which compared to other states and other areas, we were very fortunate. One storm that we had, the windstorm, I think it tested all our local emergency services, but everyone pulled together, worked hard, and we worked through it, along with the road department, state highway, and I want to shout out also to our public utility workers. They worked tirelessly for many hours to get everyone's power back on. And I will say, I went to one tree across the road on Deckard School Road to White, and county road department was out there clearing it. They had a bobcat out there moving the tree, and it was cleared fast. Then I went to one on Wilson Road, which is a state highway, and I was sitting there blocking the road, and along came state highway department with 2 crew members and a chainsaw. So we all pitched in and got the tree out of the road. I managed a trip to the emergency room by helping, so that's what I get for trying to help. We also had a train derailment, another train derailment in Glendale, which I think, all things considered, we were very fortunate because it could have been, where that derailment was, it could have been a lot worse than what it was. It could have wiped out buildings and injured a lot of people, and thank goodness no hazardous materials were involved. Also in March, some county officials spoke to the Chamber of Commerce Leadership Hardin County class, and I think we had a good conversation that day, had a lot of great questions from some of these future leaders of our community. We also welcomed Deputy Evan Newton to the HCSO family. Which you can see, he had a large family of support there for his swearing in, and we're glad to have Deputy Newton assigned to the Patrol Division. Next slide, we have Deputy Cason Hicks, who stopped by for a visit, and he's a fine young man and enjoys to stop by and visit us here at the Sheriff's Office. And the next slide, you'll see Deputies Cornett and Newton at a visit at a daycare in Sonora. And I'm a firm believer in touching children's lives at a young age. Me, growing up in a rural community, I remember Sheriff B.F. Brown, who was Joe Prather's father-in-law, talking to me and paying attention to me when I was a young boy there in Upton, and also some troopers that would, and Trooper Tommy Roselle, always the same way, and Trooper Harold Annell, who's now deceased, always had time for a young man, and I think it helped me in my career choice in life. And hopefully we can do some recruiting at an early age by talking and meeting with these young folks. April the 9th through the 15th was our National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, and dispatchers that's a job that I wouldn't want it. They have to take all the calls, but they're our lifeline. They're EMS, fire, and police lifeline, and we can't thank them enough. We sure appreciate them. Also on the last slide, it's a presentation of a check from Governor Beshear from the Department of Homeland Security on a grant that we put in for. It was a little over $77,000 that we're going to utilize, that we put in the grant to utilize for new duty weapons, body armor, and tasers. These are all things that will enhance deputies' safety and also public safety in our county. And we take advantage of every grant opportunity that we can at the Sheriff's Office because we don't have the budget for equipment. Our budget, nearly 87% of our budget goes for payroll. And you have to be able to recruit. In order to recruit and retain quality personnel, you've got to pay them. And so nearly 87% of our budget goes for the payroll of deputies. So we look for any avenue we can to get grant money Also, in our office operations, we turned over the tax rolls to our county clerk, Brian Smith, on April the 17th at the close of business, and proud to report that our collection rate was slightly over 99% collected at the sheriff's office. So that's all I have. Does anyone have any questions of me? All right, thank you all.
Thank you. All right. Next up is our clerk, Brian Smith.
Thank you all. Is it? There we go. Okay, obviously we are 3 weeks from today is the May primary. We'll be closing the polls at about 15 or so minutes at this time, 3 weeks from today. So we're focusing a lot of our time and resources on this. We want to remind folks that mail-in absentee ballots can be requested through May 2nd. The easiest and most secure way to do that is to go to govoteky.com, and you can do that online. And you're also welcome to call our office directly. The in-person excused absentee voting, those have been enshrined in law. Those dates have been in law for a number of years. Those are May 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and 8th, 9th, and 10th. That's going to be 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. down on the first floor. We invite those who qualify. In order to qualify for an absentee voting, you have to qualify by age, illness, or disability, or you'll be out of town on the early voting days and primary election day. Always want to remind folks that pregnant women that may not consider themselves ill, they're not, but if you're in the 3rd trimester, we strongly recommend you voting absentee because babies are going to come when babies come. I'm the father of 4 kids, and not one of them has been born on their due date. So we want to make sure that's available to those folks and nobody misses the opportunity to vote. Early voting days are going to be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday before the election. Those are going to be both at the county clerk's office downstairs, and we're pleased to offer that in Colvin Community Center, doubling our capacity for early voting this year. It's been going to be extremely helpful for our folks who work on post. Got an opportunity to visit with them today. Primary election day, we will have 10 locations scattered about the county. You can see them listed here. Anyone who's a registered voter in Hardin County can vote in any of those locations. And just a reminder, though, that the primary is only available to registered Republicans and registered Democrats. The primary is the opportunity for those parties to select their nominees for the November election, and both parties are, in fact, having contested races on the ballot. Next slide. This shows the breakdown of voter registration in Hardin County on the latest numbers from the State Board of Elections. We have 86,645 registered voters, largest number being Republicans, like slightly smaller number Democrat, and we also have a number of independents and third-party registrants. And next slide. The fun part, our April fees and commissions report. You can see the trend continues, that we're seeing a reduced activity in traditional real estate transactions. That's no surprise given the high interest rates. The number I didn't expect in here is a slight decrease for our March vehicle registration license. March is the busiest month in vehicle registration for us. It's when all of our farm vehicle tags are renewed, but it's also our commercial vehicles. And I think that's where that biggest difference is. It's not in people who are getting their tags renewed in March because it's their birthday. Their birthdays haven't changed over last year, but I think we have a decreased number of commercial vehicles being registered here in Hardin County. So slightly dip for this month. We expect that to kind of return to normal next month. And next slide. Pending any questions, please feel free to reach out to the clerk's office anytime. You can call me directly. You can reach out to any member of our staff. So thank you, Fiscal Court, for allowing me to present.
Any comments or questions?
Thank you, Brad. Thank you all.
All right. Thanks. Appreciate it, Brian. Okay, so in the packet, what's available are some written reports from EMS, 911, Detention Center, and also from planning. So that, as you know, all these are available. All right, let's move on. I do have some updates on the budget. And so I want to talk just a few minutes about that. I have a bunch of stuff written down here. I think I'm just going to skip it. Because it's, I just want to kind of give an overview, really, of what we've ended up with. Basically, if we take all of our operating revenues or our revenues that are coming in each year, and we take all those and add them up, and we subtract all of our expenses, our ongoing operating expenses, and we subtract those two, we end up with about $1.9 million in the red. Okay, so that's kind of where we started from. Whenever, thankfully, our treasurer, Lisa, over here, she worked diligently along with others and help from a whole team to pull all that together. And it was a bit of a process. I know I've gotten comments that I've done some things differently, as you might imagine, from previous administration. And my philosophy is openness and transparency, so we have tried to do that through this process. I don't think we've done it perfectly, but I did go through quite a process with each of our departments, with them providing their budgets, going through each one of those, and making sure that, that they made sense, providing all of those to Lisa, who kind of dumped them all into this, I guess, a massive spreadsheet, and other tools that she uses. And the same thing for the revenues too, as we pulled all those together. So, so I guess that's kind of the bad news. It was a higher number than I anticipated. I really didn't know what it was going to be. So from that, I do want, I believe I've gotten some emails and some phone calls that, what's going on, your county government is broke, and that's not true. We do have money that's in our unrestricted general account. We have estimated that with trying to understand. As you know, it's different than maybe your typical business or or your household, in that you've got this massive amount of money from taxes that come in, and each year in November, December, January time frame, and that's supposed to last you pretty much all year long. So you got to be careful in saying we've got so many dollars in the general account. You got to pull that money out, because you're going to be using it to get an actual number. So through some good analysis, again, by our treasurer, we understand that we have about $11 million that's out there for us to utilize as we need to utilize it for more, what I would say, more one-time purchases, for maybe future growth in certain areas. And I've talked a lot about our emergency services and some needs there. So we can use that money for those important things as we need to. But with this budget the way it is, you want to be able to balance what's coming in with what's going out each year. And so we are $1.9 million. So that brought us to looking at, and I'll say more about it as we get to the resolution. But we, let me catch up here on my notes. One note about that $11 million, you might be wondering where that came from. It's some previous money from the hospital that's in that amount. We also had some sale of some buildings that mostly, I think, downtown E-Town is mostly where that came from. And we also have some 4-year end-of-term payouts that happen at the end of term. And those from our clerk and also from the sheriff's office. So when you add all those up, that's pretty much some other smaller amounts that adds up to that. So those are, again, that's all one-time revenues, and generally would not want to use any of that for just operating our government. So in this budget includes an annual payout to Baptist Health Foundation, Hardin, of $2.35 million. That was set up to come out of the budget this year and the next 2 years. It was dedicated to basically as seed money for a possible YMCA. I will note that there's already $3 million that was sent to the foundation for seed money back in December. So that money is already at the foundation and in the account. We have, there was also some acreage here on this property at the far end, and that was also given to a different foundation, but for the purpose of a YMCA. And on top of that, just for note, there was $2 million for a walking trail at the hospital, and that money is also gone, and it's already in the foundation available for that trail. So I guess at this point, I just wanted to say, given the fact that significant resources have been committed, obviously, $3 million in a parcel of land to help fund the YMCA, and given that your Hardin County government needs the revenue to balance this budget, in a little bit we will vote on a resolution to reverse future payouts that amount to, over those 3 payouts, about $7 million. So I just want to make sure that, you know, of the magistrates I've talked to, and we've discussed this, and we may have a few more comments when we get into the resolution, that there's, you know, from my point of view, and I don't think from really anybody else, there's not a real, you know, negativity towards a YMCA by any means. It's really, for me, just a bottom line type of decision. You know, we need the money. So I just didn't want there to be some misconception that that this fiscal court is, you know, totally against having a future YMCA. Even with, if we are successful in going through that process and keeping this money in Hardin County government for us to use, we would still leave $3 million in that account as seed money, and also that parcel of land. So it's a pretty, I think, a nice starting point, and you know, for the future, if this county, if Elizabethtown, Radcliffe, this whole county wants to have a YMCA, then I think that's a fantastic start, even without that $7 million that we need to function. So all that's to explain, and then I'll throw in this too, that budget, the proposed budget from the Judge Executive, we have had several meetings, and like I said, our process has been open. We've had meetings with and discussed the needs and the wants of all the departments, on top of their regular operating expenses, some things that, for instance, our ambulance service need to replace some ambulances, and they're not cheap. And so, you know, what do we do with that? You know, do we have money that we can utilize for that? So those are the types of things that we've pulled together, you know, a list to look at that. And then we also, as Fiscal Court, we've had some finance committee meetings recently to review what we started with as a draft proposal, and then we started to talk about, if that YMCA money doesn't exit, it stays here, then we have some 2.35 minus the, you know, the 1.9, approximately about $450,000 that can go to some additional things. So we've been through that process, and by this Friday we have a specially called finance meeting, and we will review the changes to that we've all discussed, and that will be my proposal to the Fiscal Court. And then we will discuss if there's some further changes to it after that, then we'll decide what those changes are, and then we'll have that final, not maybe necessarily final, but a first reading of that budget at the first meeting in May. So that's kind of the timeline, and then if things go well with that, it gets sent out to the what? Department of Local Government, and they will put their blessing on it, or they may have some changes that we have to make, and then we'll have a second reading to finalize it before the June 30th deadline. Correct? Yeah, still learning, but it's quite a process, I will say that. Anyway, all that, I think that pretty much brings us up to speed on where we're at right now with it. And like I said, Friday the proposal from the judge executive has to be done by May 1st. And so our intentions are to have that proposal finished and in the hands of all the magistrates and anybody else who wants to see it by Friday. And then we'll discuss it again and see if there's any further changes at our meeting on Friday. Okay, so that's probably more than you wanted to know. So I'll wrap that up, and then we'll move on to the next item, which is citizens' concerns or comments. And I believe there may have been at least one person that have something that's on the agenda, that's on their mind that you want to bring before us today. Yeah. If you'll just state your name and where you live, your phone number and social security number. No, I'm just kidding.
My cell block number is 205. Judge, court members, I'm Bobby Alexander, registered voter in Hardin County, and I'm honored today to have an opportunity to present some information, some thoughts, not just for myself, but I think I speak for a number of people as I present my thoughts. I know that you're addressing an important issue today that the judge has just spoken briefly about, which is the incredible amount of money that a previous court committed. I want to give you a little update. You may or may not know this, but I found it interesting. I'd like to share some thoughts with you. This is related to YMCA funding. The mission statement for the Y is this. The YMCA is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to put Christian principles into practice through programs that build healthy spirit, mind, and body for all. Okay, that's what the previous court committed, I guess, roughly $10 million to help get going. I don't disagree with any of that, but I don't believe any of that fits into taxpayers' responsibilities. The YMCA was founded in 1844 in London, YMCA. In 1844 in London, it came to the United States in 1851. Hardin County was founded in 1792. So the county's been here a lot longer than the YMCA has, and I have never spoken to anyone ever in government that talked about taxpayers paying for a YMCA. And I'm just blown away by the fact that it's happened here in this county by the previous court. I believe you stand in position to correct that. It needs to be corrected. Here's what the YMCA advertises themselves as actually being. A non-governmental federation with each independent local Y affiliated with its national organization. The national organizations, in turn, are part of both an area alliance and the world alliance of YMCAs. So who really runs the thing? Is it a local group or is it somebody else? Where does their marching orders come from? Where does their SOPs come from? Reading that makes you wonder. So I know there's a lot of things that you guys need, that the county government needs. But I went through 59 pages myself yesterday of the February budget that I believe this lady right here or her office put together. 59 pages. First time I ever done that. And I am stupefied at how much money goes through this county. I tell you, look at it. Look at it. I'm sure you guys have. If you haven't, you need to look at it because you're the ones that's spending it. It is incredible. And I can guarantee you, if all of you people got your heads together and really worked to it, you could cut 10% of that right off the bat and never miss a beat. But I've never yet heard anyone in this fiscal court, previous or present, speak about cutting or reducing spending. That's part of your job. Whether you know that or not, that's part of your job. And I'm going to ask you to get on that part. Include that in part of your daily deliberations and what you do here. I believe he said there's 86,645 voters. You're representing all the people of the county, but in particular, you're representing those people. And that's not a threat of anything about throwing you out of office. It's a simple fact. You are responsible to the people in this county. That's what you're here for. I would appreciate it if you would work that way and think that way and operate your duties that way. And if you do that, I believe you're absolutely going to vote to rescind this commitment to these funds to this YMCA. That's what I ask you to do, not just the, excuse me if I'm off a bit on my numbers, but I think it's 2.35 million. But there's 3 more iterations of that, is that correct, I believe? 23, 24, 25, and 24 more.
There's total of 3.
Total of 3. So that's a lot of money. You need that money right here in your coffers of this county that we've put in there, and you need to take care of the people of Hardin County. Please do that. Please, please do that. Judge, thank you so much. Thank you all.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President. Is there anybody else that might have some comments? Okay. All right, thank you.
Judge?
Yes.
I don't normally respond, but Bobby and I have known each other for a long time. We've had breakfasts together, we've sparred back and forth about the government issues. I would like to correct something. First of all, no tax dollars came into the coffers from the hospital. There's never ever any tax dollars put into the hospital, so that's not tax dollars. That's revenues from the sale of the hospital, number one. 2, the Y that's being researched is an independent Y, and it's going to be run by a local board. It's not corporate Y, so it's a different hybrid of the Y. So I just wanted to correct those 2 things, Bobby.
All right. Thank you, Manager. All right, so we're ready to move on into a few ordinance and some resolutions. The first one is a first reading of ordinance number 254, series 2007, amendment number 1, relating to flood damage prevention. And I believe to explain that to us, are we going to start with Charlie, or we're just going to go straight? Okay, so we, Mr. Alex VanPelt, I believe, and if you wouldn't mind to kind of introduce yourself so we know who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Alex VanPelt. I am the Kentucky NFIP coordinator at the Division of Water. More commonly, folks refer to me as the state floodplain manager for Kentucky. My job is to be the state technical expert for anything flood related that happens in the Commonwealth. Charlie's asked me to come here today to give you guys a quick update of what this amendment is and give you a little bit of background of what the National Flood Insurance Program is. Next slide. So quick background on the NFIP. The NFIP, the National Flood Insurance Program, is a voluntary program that communities in Kentucky either choose or choose not to participate in. It's essentially an agreement between the federal government and your local community. Essentially, the agreement boils down to the community agrees to adopt and enforce this floodplain development ordinance, adopt and enforce. And in return for that, federally backed flood insurance is made available to anybody in unincorporated Hardin County. There are other incentives tied to participation in the program, such as mitigation grant dollars, HUD funding, things like that, that are tied to those high-risk flood zones. Basically, the goal of the NFIP is to reduce future flood damages. There are 4 actions that the program takes. First, you have to identify your flood risks. So where are the areas in the county where it's most likely to flood? Those are what we call floodplain maps or flood insurance rate maps. Once you know where those high-risk areas are, what standards are you going to have folks take to protect themselves from future flood damages? So this would be things like elevating your structure, relocating potentially outside of the floodplain, making it watertight, elevating your utilities, things like that. No matter how high we set those development standards, there's always a level of residual risk that we can just never make go away. You could elevate your home 10 feet above the floodplain, and if something washes downstream and bangs into it during a flood, that's flood damage. So we offer insurance to cover that residual risk. The 4th action is mitigate existing risk. There's been European settlers living in Kentucky for 200 plus years. The NFIP is only about 55 years old. So for those structures that were in place prior to the program, going back and taking some action, mitigating, to reduce their existing risk. So that could be acquisitions, elevations, relocations, flood proofing, things like that. Next slide, please. Give you a little background on the maps. The flood insurance rate maps or the floodplain maps, they identify areas of high, moderate, and low risk. And I want to be very clear when I say that. Low risk does not mean the same thing as no risk. Anywhere it rains, it can flood. These maps are used for management decisions. So we at Division of Water, we have state level permitting for floodplains. We issue permits for developments. They're also used by the county for management decisions as well. Other stakeholders that use these floodplain maps include people like lenders. Whenever you get a federally backed mortgage, the lender is required by law to require you as the loan holder to take out flood insurance to protect that asset. Other stakeholders would be things like community citizens can use it to know their risk. Insurance agents can use it to recommend or previously they could use it to require insurance, things like that. Floodplain maps, FEMA is the one ultimately responsible for creating these maps. They're statutorily required by Congress to keep these maps updated. Division of Water, we are actually a cooperating technical partner with FEMA. So essentially we're a subcontractor for FEMA. They provide the funding. We go through, do the studies, do them to FEMA requirements, statutory requirements, and then FEMA is ultimately the ones who sign off on it. So in Kentucky, Division of Water, we're the folks going out and actually doing the public meetings. We're the ones going out and helping to collect data, provide information, things like that. So these maps, they're the official legal documents that are used whenever we're regulating development in the floodplains. Again, those high-risk zones, what are we going to have you do to protect yourself? So all communities that participate in the NFIP, of which Hardin County is one, you have this flood damage prevention ordinance that was part of your agreement to participate in the program. I want to be very clear, when you're requiring these development standards through your ordinance, you're enforcing an ordinance that was passed by a previous court. This is not FEMA standards, these are not FEMA requirements, you're doing something that this previous body agreed to adopt and enforce. As these maps are updated, they need to be incorporated into your ordinance. Your ordinance, Article 3, Section B, actually says what maps the county will use when making these decisions. Next slide, please. So the ordinance has to be kept updated to refer to these most recent maps. Part of the county will be getting new maps on May 23rd, so just under 4 weeks out. So the current version of the ordinance refers to the 2007 maps. The image to the right is actually a screen grab I took of the copy of the ordinance we have on file with you all at Division of Water. So it refers to the 2007 maps, and it does not include what we call the auto-adopt language, meaning it would automatically incorporate any future changes that were done to these maps. For reference, the auto-adopt language is a section in that paragraph that would say, and any subsequent amendment thereof. So the ordinance, or I guess I should say the amendment in front of you all, is to essentially revise this section of the ordinance to refer to the new maps, but then to also include any future changes that would be happening. Division of Water, as the cooperating technical partner, we want to go back and restudy these areas approximately every 5 to 10 years moving forward. That's been our goal. Now, whether that actually happens funding-wise or not is a different conversation. But these maps need to be incorporated into your all's ordinance by the end of the day on May 22nd. Otherwise, at 12 a.m. on the 23rd, FEMA will suspend the community from the NFIP. What that will mean in practice is no new flood insurance policies will be available except private market policies. No renewals will be able to come up for renewal. Anybody in the process of closing on a home will not be able to meet all their mortgage requirements because they won't be able to get flood insurance except, again, private market, and private market insurance is substantially more expensive than NFIP because you're paying into a much smaller pot than you are with the NFIP, which is nationwide. I also wanted to give you folks my contact information in case anybody has any additional questions relating to this ordinance amendment or anything else flood related. My email's on the line, on the screen. That is also my direct line. I will recommend, though, if you are trying to contact me, to email. I'm currently 2.5 weeks backlogged on my voicemails because I'm out in the field so much. But if you leave me a message, I will call you back. You can also reach out to Division of Water. They have a couple general contact couple ways to generally contact us. water@ky.gov or the phone number on the screen. And with that, I will take any questions that you all might have.
Do we have any questions? I know we discussed a lot of this at the Public Works Committee meeting, so I think that may...
County. I'm an old retired NFIP adjuster, so I was only certified adjuster in the county for years, especially how old I am. But it's a very, very important thing for the community.
Yeah, completely agree.
I'm going to throw Charlie under the bus. He said you actually volunteered to come do it. He didn't.
I did, yes. Yeah, I do these quite frequently.
We certainly appreciate you coming here and providing this information to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so is there a motion to approve this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll have a roll call.
Squire Clem?
Yes.
Squire Hicks?
Yes.
Squire Muse?
Yes.
Squire Pennington?
Yes.
Squire Saltzman?
Yes.
Squire Thompson?
Yes.
Squire Whitehead?
Yes.
Squire Yates?
Yes.
Judge Taul?
Yes, motion passes. All right, so the next item on the list here is a second reading. We had the first reading at our last meeting, and this is the adoption of ordinance number 329-6, series 2022, relating to fiscal year 2022-2023 budget amendment number 6. And again, this, just to remind you, these are some expenses that needed to be handled, about $450,000 for the Sheriff's Department, and then another $140,000 for EMS, covering some different, some fuel and different things that went outside of the budget. So in order to do that, we are covering this $590,000, I think from some interest earned that maybe was unbudgeted, and so we're able to handle that. All right, so that's what we are going to vote on. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second, okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we have a roll call.
Squire Clem?
Yes.
Squire Hicks?
Yes.
Squire Muse?
Yes.
Squire Pennington?
Yes.
Squire Saltzman?
Yes.
Squire Thompson?
Yes.
Squire Whitehead?
Yes.
Squire Yates?
Yes.
Judge Taul?
Yes, motion passes. All right, the next item is to approve the resolution number 2023-088. This resolution amends and rescinds the resolution 2022-254 regarding the appropriation of funds for the provision of public health facilities and services, YMCA, to the Baptist Health Foundation, Hardin. So as I said before, I've kind of already spoken some about this. Again, this resolution is dealing with future money that would go to this foundation. It doesn't touch the money that's already in the foundation, which again I said is $3 million dedicated for a future YMCA and $2 million for a walking trail. That money, $5 million, is already in the foundation, and this resolution does not do anything with that. That stays where it's at. The other part of that was the land, and we are not addressing that today at all. So this is all about future money, $2.35 million per year for 3 years, somewhere around $7 million total that we are looking at addressing here with this resolution.
Judge, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we rescind the money to YMCA, the future payments for the next 3 years of $2.35 million.
Okay.
Before I move on, I may be wrong. I'd like to offer a friendly amendment if that's possible. Is this the right time for that, or after it's been seconded?
Well, let's wait till it gets seconded, and then in the discussion time, if you need an amendment, you're welcome to.
I would like it to be received as a friendly amendment.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, so we have a second. So now discussion.
I would offer a friendly amendment that we limit it to the year 2024 and leave 2025 and 2026 to be decided in the future.
Okay. Is there a second to the amendment?
Can you repeat that again for me?
Well, the resolution, as it is stated, includes proceeds from Baptist Health Hardin in the fiscal years 24, 25, and 26 to the foundation. What I would offer, hopefully as a friendly amendment, is that we decide on 2024 and then reevaluate for the coming years afterward. It just makes sense to me that if there's a legacy fund that's established with the possibility of bringing something to our community that would maybe even generate additional sponsorships, we do not need to be hasty in making a decision to pull it back. And if we find after we've gotten into the year that we don't really have to count on this money, which is not from taxes, then perhaps we can reevaluate that even during the year. I'm thinking that anytime you do something such as this, you're signaling to the population that they're looking toward having to fund at a higher level. And we've been asked to take a look at reducing spending, and I'd like to see us in every possible way be as efficient as we can be with operations of the county government. Yet I know we must have competitive pay for employees, or else our government collapses. And there's no need for that because we have adequate funds. But to look at taking money that has been generated for the future and taking it back to replace what would normally be generated with taxes, in my mind, gives a bad signal. So I urge you to consider the amendment as a friendly amendment.
Just to clarify to the attorney, we have a motion and a second. We should vote on this right here.
Well, wait, we just need a second on the amendment.
No, we already have a motion and a second for the original, so we need to vote on that.
No.
You can move to amend.
Okay.
Before you all can debate the amendment, you need a second.
But it dies if there's no second.
Okay, hearing no second, we will move on with some other discussion.
Okay.
Being the first to vote, I guess I would be the first to speak. Get out of everyone else's way, I guess. Everybody on this court knows that I was part of the old court that made this decision. And everybody in the funds for the Y, not because I was opposed to the Y, because I am very supportive of the Y. I voted against it because it was more than I wanted to do. I actually agreed to $5 million in the 9 acres. That didn't happen. It went greater than that. So myself and Gary King, I think, were two members of the court that voted against it. So having said that, it puts me kind of in a different situation because that's one issue. Today's issue is a little different. My issue today is in regards to something that Mr. Thompson talked about. Overturning a prior court's decision, a 7-2 decision, as a slippery slope that I personally don't want to go down. Breaking of a written agreement and a resolution by county government sends the message to me that integrity of the court is in question. And our county government, maybe reputation is in question. Who would want to partner with us going forward in the future and doing something else other than the why? If they feel like, well, you know, we can't depend on the court to stick to its decision. So that puts me in a decision today to vote on a separate issue. And I'll be voting no on the resolution today.
All right. Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, Judge, you know, I think today's vote's going to be probably one of the first little controversial ones we have, maybe a little split, which I think's healthy. If everybody's thinking alike, I think somebody's not thinking. So, you know, I think as, you know, representatives of our constituents, that it's good that we're having healthy discussions here. But I will be voting in favor of rescinding the YMCA money tonight. And the reason why is the money was allocated to the YMCA in the 12th hour of the last administration with no public input on the matter. Prior to deciding to give away $10.05 million plus land to a nonprofit organization, I would think that at a very minimum, we as elected officials would seek input from our constituents, and this did not happen. You're going to hear from some that it's a bad practice to overturn what the previous court has done. And my argument is that it was a bad practice to give the money away in the first place. Since becoming elected to this court, I've learned that we've had bridges in poor condition, our jail is often at capacity, our average ambulance has 176,000 miles on it, and the coroner's office only has one vehicle to transport bodies. So when they have more than one case going at the same time, we're tying up ambulances to transport a deceased body. Now, let me repeat that. We're tying up an ambulance to transport a deceased body. Imagine having to wait on an ambulance for a loved one because the ambulance is tied up transporting someone that's already deceased. I could go on and on about the needs we have in the county, but the bottom line is that we have a lot more things to worry about funding than a nonprofit organization that's brand is worth more than $6.4 billion. The average cost for YMCA fees is $80 to $90 per family. The YMCA will only benefit a select few and will do nothing for the vast majority of Hardin County, especially the constituents that I represent in northern Hardin County. If YMCA wants to locate here, or if a group wants them here, then they can do some capital campaigns to raise the money, but the taxpayers should not be footing the bill.
All right. Thank
Not taxpayers.
Any which way you slice it, that money's in the county government. We're stewards of that money.
Judge, I'd like to speak.
Yes, please.
Thank you, sir. Judge and fellow court members, I'd like to talk a moment about this vote and in general about our budget. Let's be honest, today's vote isn't just about a YMCA, it's about two things: honoring commitments we, as Hardin County Fiscal Court, make, whether it was our predecessors who made the commitment or our current court. And it's about the financial behavior of this court. Do we need a why? Like every issue we're going to deal with, some say yes, some say no. I can live with either decision. Do we vacate a previous court's decision? Again, some say yes, some say no. My preference is we honor the commitments already made, whether it's a why or something else. Moreover, how much time are we going to spend debating what might be perceived as bad decisions made by previous courts? The more time we spend on the past, the less time we spend on our future. Nevertheless, let's be honest with ourselves. This debate is really more about how we spend money stored in the county treasury. This debate has developed into how and where we have saved money, and apparently we are talking about spending all of it. So let me tell you a story about a man named Jack Whitaker. Jack was a West Virginia businessman. Jack was a self-made millionaire. He started a construction business from scratch. and turned it into an American success story, the kind of story we all love. Jack ran a tight ship, he budgeted with great discipline, he forecasted his revenue and expenses and budgeted within his means and put away money for a rainy day. He was, by every measure, successful. Then one day, Jack won the lottery. It changed Jack. Suddenly, Jack had all of the money he ever imagined, and he didn't have to work for it. He abandoned all the financial principles that made him a millionaire and a successful businessman prior to winning the lottery. On June 27, 2020, Jack died, broken in every way, penniless, and an embarrassment to his family and friends. There are some in this room who hate Harry Berry. There are some, I hope many, who, like me, love and respect his 20 years of work on behalf of Hardin County. For 20 years, Hardin County government has been pre-lottery winner Jack Whitaker. This court has inherited a debt-free county government. We've inherited record reserves, and we've inherited record income. But it seems all we can talk about is how to spend our savings. We were told recently, and last night, that every budget for the next 20 years, if necessary, will be balanced with our reserves, an extreme rarity from the past 20 years. Many of us on this court are successful businessmen and women. We are successful because we've looked a lot like pre-lottery Jack Whitaker. Unfortunately, as a court, we are starting to look a lot like post-lottery Jack Whitaker. We are seemingly having a hard time making tough decisions and eliminating no or later from our budget vocabulary. In today's paper, it was stated we are not broke, but that followed with a comment by Judge Executive Taul that he'd be a little surprised if Fiscal Court does not take what we can get when it comes to a 4% increase in property taxes. We've already made some key mistakes, like giving a very large employee raises when a clear or inaccurate picture of the budget was unavailable to us. And based upon the quote above, we are anticipating making even more budget mistakes. As an elder in my church, I've seen many times that once you make a mistake, it becomes easier to make. And sometimes those mistakes even become addicting. While some may say, well, it's okay just this one time, it's not. And I assure you, it won't be just one time. I've seen the rerun of this movie many times. Dave Ramsey has a few comments over the years that have stuck with me. The first, personal finance is 80% behavior, 20% head knowledge. And the second, you won't get ahead if you don't have a plan for your money. Instead, you'll find yourself wondering where your money went at the end of every month. That's not financial independence. That's a recipe for financial disaster. I want county government to look more like Dave Ramsey and pre-lottery winner Jack Whitaker. If good financial decisions are 80% behavior, as Dave says, then we are starting off on the wrong foot, and that's a recipe for financial disaster. A millionaire turned supermillionaire ended up living a paycheck to paycheck, broken in every way, penniless, and an embarrassment to his family and friends. A beautiful story that could have been more beautiful ended in financial disaster. We can pay our water bills or whatever else from our savings or windfalls, but let's be honest, that is bad financial behavior. We'd never, I hope, do that in our business or at home. Challenging financial days are coming. We don't know when or how, but they are coming, and we need to maintain our savings. If we continue down this road, this court will look like Jack Whitaker on June 27th, 2020. Politically dead, broke, penniless, and an embarrassment to his family, friends, and even worse, to the Hardin County taxpayers. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
I'd like to, speak next, going in order here. I don't have a written speech, and I don't have any fancy words. I'm just going to speak from my heart. And common sense in my heart tells me that there's a lot of need in this community, in county government, and with the voters that we're accountable to. $7 million is a heck of a lot of money and will go a long way in helping provide some needed services that we need right now, today. Not in a year, not in 2 years, not in 4 years, but today. At some point in the future, I hope we can contribute maybe some more for a while. We've already given them the land. We've already given them $3 million. I think in my position, there are others in this community that can step up and help as well. we don't have to be the forerunner and try to fund the entire amount or even half of the amount. If we're fiscally able to give money in the future, then so be it. But right now, today, we have to make decisions based on today and what we need today. So I will be voting in favor to rescind this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Well, Judge Taul, I've had a lot of phone calls in the last few days over this, and I've wrestled with it. But I've had 30 phone calls that wanted us to get this money back. And I've had 2 that asked us to leave the money alone. So I don't know what percentage of that is it out in my district, but, you know, I'm going to vote yes for it today because I think it's the right thing to do. And, you know, maybe there is a YMCA down the road someday, but I don't think we need it right now. And my vote is yes.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Judge,
Yes.
I think everybody here, you know, respects everyone's decision. I think that's really important for everybody to know that although we may disagree, we respect each other for our decisions. I respect Fred for his commitment to integrity in his word, and I think that is huge. However, over the last 20 years in this court, there hasn't been a change of color guard. We haven't seen somebody change. So we don't know what could have maybe changed previously as well. So not to say that it would have happened, but we don't know that. But in our presidential elections, we see things change all the time. We see a different picture. We have a different avenue that we think we may need to go down. And because of that, it's okay to sometimes question a decision somebody has made beforehand. I do think that it is important that people understand that even though we may disagree on this decision, doesn't mean that we're not unified in trying to do what's right for Hardin County. I think that needs to be very clear. And I think another point that should be very clear, you could probably ask any single one of us, and we all would support a YMCA coming here. That is also very important. Although I don't think we're all going to agree on who's paying for it, and that's why we're talking about it right now. I probably am the closest person on this court to maybe utilizing, Brian, you have younger kids, Chris, I know you do too, that my kids would probably use a YMCA. Maybe not. So for that reason alone, I've got to look at it. What's right for my district? What's right for the youth? What's right for those constituents that may need a YMCA? And some would say, yeah, we need it. But at whose expense? At whose cost? And I don't mean taxpayer dollars in that sense, but I do know that our taxpayer dollars could be used, and I'm not talking just the legacy fund, for betterment of our emergency services, betterment of our roads, betterment of our bridges, whatever you may think of, and even look for ways to save money. This money could be a useful tool for another project that could help our emergency services. We have a lot of growth that's coming. I mean, anybody that doesn't see it is just turning a blind eye. It's everywhere right now. And we're going to have some big capital expenditures, and they will be to the betterment of the community. They will be to the betterment of the health and wellness of the community. And I just don't necessarily think that YMCA money that was proposed was the right thing to do at that time. Now, I know the previous administration may have seen it as such, but that's questionable because we do have so much going on. You know, with an influx of our capacity in this county, our EMS is ran right now to the T, like all the way down, and we have to expand that, and we're going to have to look for more ways to improve that as well. But I just wanted to touch on those few points. But I do want to make something else very clear. Non-perpetual money should not be used to balance a budget. We cannot use money that was inherited to make decisions for the long term. If I inherit $10,000 today, I cannot go buy a new car because in 10 months that money is gone. You can't do that. That's not that's not fiscally responsible at all. So, as it may be important to rescind this money, it's not important to use that money to balance our budget. So there's two things that I think we're discussing here, and as I may be in favor of rescinding the money for the purpose of the YMCA now, I just want to make it clear that I am not in favor of it to be used to balance the budget.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else have any further comments?
I want to echo Patsy's comments. We've already furnished them $3 million. We give them the land to build the thing on. And I'm not in favor of giving them another $7 million in the future to build the YMCA. I think they got other means to generate money. You know, other communities here, E-Town, Radcliffe, if that's what they want to fund, then that's what they should do. And I'm not against the YMCA. Maybe in the future, 2 or 3 years, they may be ready to build it and ask us for some money. And then if we feel that's good, then we vote for it. That's all I got to say.
All right. Thank you, Kenny.
Just,
Yes.
speak again.
Okay.
You know, we're talking about the future of the Y. This clawing back this money is not going to defeat the future of the Y. The Y is a project that's going to be led by other folks. We were just trying to provide seed money, and with the $3 million and the land, I think we've done a pretty good job of that. There's other partners that are going to step forward and take part in the Y if it becomes a reality. And one thing we need to remember, that if it does not become a reality, in 5 years, the $3 million comes back to the county, and the land comes back to the county. So there's conditions attached to it. So, you know, I think today has been an example of a good exercise of government. All right. Proud of you guys. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, and I think there is just one more comment about it. A bit of a misconception that if we were to continue with the $3 million and this additional $7 million, it would be a total of $10 million, that would somehow be enough to actually build a YMCA, which is not true. It wouldn't touch it. I mean, it would obviously help, but it wouldn't be enough. So I think I've gotten a few comments that says by taking the $7 million out of that pot, that now we were about to start to build one, and now we're not going to. And that's not true. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Any other comments? Okay, hearing none, let's go ahead and have our roll call.
Squire Clem.
No.
Squire Hicks.
Yes.
Squire Muse.
Yes.
Squire Pennington.
Yes.
Squire Saltzman.
No.
Squire Thompson.
No.
Squire Whitehead.
Yes.
Squire Yates.
Yes.
Judge Taul.
Yes. Can you give me the final number?
I have 3 noes.
6-3. 6-3 then?
Yes, sir.
So it passes. Motion passes. All right, so we have one more item to address, and that is our consent agenda this meeting. The first item is approval of payrolls and dated in March. All those payrolls with payroll registers, of which have been available to you. Pretty typical stuff. The second item is approve April claims, so they'll pay our expenses for April. Approve amended resolution number 2023-069, This was relating to appointment of Greg Lowe to the Hardin County Planning Commission for a 4-year term, and it was beginning May 1st, 2023, and ending April 30th, 2027. That last date, April 30th, 2027, was changed from the previous resolution last meeting of April 30th of 2026. So basically, it was a mistake, and we're trying to take care of that at this meeting by amending that resolution. So the second one is the same thing, except it is to appoint Steve Steck to the same commission, and again, we're changing it from April 30th, 2026 to April 30th, 2027. So it's, again, changing a mistake that was made. The next item is approved resolution number 2023-082 relating to approval of some EMS personnel changes. Again, these were some pretty typical changes of moving some EMTs from part-time to full-time or vice versa, and paramedics, same types of things, some step increases for those who have made it through their initial 6 months, those types of changes to the personnel. Approval of resolution number 2023-083 relating to approval of financial transfers. Again, some typical transfers that were needed to happen to make everything balance. And then approval of the resolution number 2023-084 relating to approve a bid for a new never titled V8 four-door 4x4 SUV. This truck was in this amount, $45,000 was in the current budget, specifically for the emergency management director. And I just will say that I was impressed that we're able to find this truck for $45,000. It's a pretty good deal. Anyway, that's in there. Approve a resolution number 2023-085 is related to approval bid for a detention center security camera system. Our jailer, Josh, he's gone over this with us. Actually, these next two. This is for a security camera system. It's $229,000. That money is not actually coming out of our general fund. It's coming out of the commissary funds that they collect. And then the next resolution, 086, is related to approval bid for detention center access control system, and that was $155,000. So again, both of those are coming out of the commissary funds and are not coming out of our general funds. The next item is approved resolution number 2023-087 related to approve the Pittman Green LLC work order contract number 2. This work order contract is engineering services that we're using for basically a fire and EMS building located in the Glendale area. We needed some help to lay all that out, and so that we could go to Blue Oval and ask for some specific land that we could build this building, and to be able to do that, we needed to provide them with some actual plans for them to do that. So this is for $15,000 that will take care of that. Approve resolution number 2023-089, and that's to approve a Kentucky Homeland Security grant application. So this is, again, another grant that we're trying to apply for. And the last three items are all approval of the 3 committee meetings minutes. Okay, so that covers all the consent agenda items. Is there a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Can I just talk about one item?
Sure.
Okay. 2023-084.
Yes.
I wrestled with that a little bit because, money is short. And I made some phone calls and found out that $45,000 is a good deal, and a used vehicle is going to be real close to that. So, you know, I'm sure a lot of people in this room here and people that's listening to us would like to have a new vehicle. So that's kind of what I was wrestling with is, are we spending the taxpayers' money wisely? But with this, the price of this vehicle, I think it's a good deal, so I will vote yes for it.
All right, thank you, appreciate that. All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call.
Squire Clem?
Yes.
Squire Hicks?
Yes.
Squire Muse?
Yes.
Squire Pennington?
Yes.
Squire Saltzman?
Yes.
Squire Thompson?
Yes.
Squire Whitehead?
Yes.
Squire Yates?
Yes.
Judge Taul?
Yes, motion carries. All right, we're ready for some time of some comments. How about our county attorney? Would you like to?
I don't have anything, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so we'll move on to any comments from our magistrates, and we'll start with Magistrate Chris Yates.
Yes, Judge. The North Hardin High School is, marching band is hosting the Golden Gala. It is a fundraiser for the band to be able to participate in the 4th of July parade at Washington, D.C. They've been invited by Governor Beshear to represent Kentucky there. Tickets are $50 a piece, or 2 for $90. And if anybody would like to get tickets, they can contact Maria Battistoni at 270-312-8216. Again, that's going to be May 13th, 5 p.m. I'd like to see our sheriff, our coroners, and everybody there, and the magistrates. Come down to the northern end of town, guys.
Anything else?
That's it.
All right, thank you. Magistrate Kenny Saltzman.
Sir, thank you. I just want to give a shout out to Toshi Merle on the Paul's expo that she had, the Pet Expo, and Mike McNutt, I don't think he's here, our animal control director. They were out there in conjunction with Toshi's event, giving vaccinations and chipping animals, cats and dogs. And I went out there and kind of helped out, had a great time. I just wanted to say the expo was excellent. Our animal control staff, I got to work with them a little hand in hand, and they are a great group of people. The vet was out there looking at animals. They were doing that for free, and I just think that was a great service that our animal control put on there in conjunction with Toshi and their Pet Expo. But just wanted to thank them for allowing me to help out. That was a fun day. And you came out and saw you out there with your wife for a little while. It was good times.
Well, it really was.
Did you get him chipped while you was there?
But I agree. It was, I know they appreciated you being out there, and you were a big part of just going around and doing everything you could to help make it a success. And I was pretty impressed with the whole event, and I do want to a shout out for our animal care group and Mike McNutt and his crew, giving up a good chunk of their Saturday to do that for our community. So I thought it was fantastic, and I got to meet Ethan the Great. What is it?
Ethan Almighty.
Ethan Almighty.
And what a story of a dog that came back from, I mean, it was amazing that he lived, but he is a healthy dog now, and a lot of fun to be around. So it was a good event. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
I also want to note too, as I'm thinking about it, on Saturday there was a WHAS 11 Crusade for Children golf scramble that was held and kind of put on by one of our volunteer fire departments in the county at Valley Creek. And so I just wanted to shout out to them for doing a great job with that. You know, Joey was obviously heading that up, our emergency management director, and I thought did a fantastic job, and they raised a lot of money for that cause. So I just wanted to appreciate you guys for doing that. Yes, please. Patsy.
Okay. Just want to remind everyone that the Resources and Community Support Committee will meet on Monday, May 15th at 5:30 across the hall. And with that being said, you've got something you want to put on the agenda, please reach out to me and let me know, because I'm a big supporter of giving you a voice, and I appreciate you coming here today, and Mr. Alexander sharing your comments and representing others. And I just want to congratulate you for speaking up and letting us know what's on your mind. And just want to congratulate you for being here and joining together and as a group. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Magistrate Fred Clem.
Yes, I'll make a comment about your comments about the budget. You left with bad news. Maybe we can leave with some good news.
Okay.
First time in history that any administration has inherited the reserves that this administration has, this court has inherited. And the first time in history that I could find that any administration inherited a county with no debt. The last administration paid off all the debt. So let's don't be too negative about things that have been done, because there have been positives that's done in years past, and there's been positives done so far this year. And I think everybody saw today an example of some really energetic and sincere members of Fiscal Court that have the community in their best interests. So things are brighter than maybe sometimes we think they are. And I want to remind everyone the next Finance Committee meeting is May the 16th at 5:30 across the hall. As always, please don't drink and drive and don't text and drive.
Thank you. Magistrate Aaron Pennington.
Kind of wanted to echo what Fred had just said, and something I said earlier. Although we may not have agreed upon what we should have done with that decision, I think number one thing that we do agree on is how can we better serve this community. And I think majority of us, it's our first time seeing a budget of this magnitude. So are we going to get it perfect? No. And if you think we could, I don't know how, because I don't see that being possible. We are trying our hardest. I know that there's a lot of good that we are looking to do, try to find the most money we can to help plug in and make some things happen for this community. You know, get more ambulances, fix some more bridges. But it's going to take some work, and I know we are all working together diligently to make that happen. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew we are trying diligently.
Thank you. Magistrate E.G. Thompson.
I just want to say that it is my joy to be a part of this county where our mission is to maximize all available resources, to provide for a well-planned, adequately resourced, and professionally executed public programs, infrastructure, and services to the citizens of Hardin County. We are committed to the citizens of Hardin County. Everyone on this fiscal court is, and we will do our very best to maximize anything that comes our way to provide the best for our county. It's our vision to become the Commonwealth's premier county in which to live, work, and raise our families. I think we're well on the way. I think there are many things we can do to continue to improve everything around us. And if we ever give up on continuing to improve, then we're failing in our mission and our vision. So I just want to challenge us to keep our eyes on our mission and vision and be a part of the greatest community that we can be.
All right, thank you. Magistrate Larry Hicks.
Well, everybody here has mentioned that they're proud to be on this fiscal court. I consider it an honor. I never thought I'd ever be here. I never thought I would run for this office, but a lot of things happened, so I decided to run. But I love this county. I love the people in this county. And I think the audience can see that every one of us sitting up here is got you all in the main focus. But and I hope we always will put you all first. That's my intent. And I said that to say this. May the 2nd, we've got a meeting that is coming up that probably could change our county more so than anything else we've talked about here. And I hope that you will study that and understand that because this vote on planning and zoning could be the biggest thing that we've had to vote on this year, or maybe any time. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you know, they want to change the zoning, they want to put our farm land into commercial, where it opens the door up for the solar panels to come in. We've got to save this land somewhere. I mean, you can't build houses on top of solar panels. We've got people moving in here as wanting to build homes. We got people moving in here as wanting to open up businesses. So I don't think solar panels is the right thing for our farmland. I'm not against solar panels. You know, if you want to put it on top of your home, if you want to put it on top of your shop, you want to put it on top of the industry, that's it. I'm going to share one thing with you. Down there on 62 to where they want to put the solar panels, they dropped some red dye in there, and 5 hours later, it was down at the water treatment plant in White Mills. We don't need solar panels in Hardin County. So May the 2nd, I hope you'll show up and support it one way or the other.
All right, thank you. Magistrate Kenny Muse.
Tomorrow morning at Vine Grove, I believe it's Legislator Day or breakfast. Some of our state legislators will be there, some of them to speak, Matt Deneen, and I'll try to be there too. And that's 8 to 10 at Vine Grove City Hall. And also Saturday morning, the Rineyville Ballpark will have their opening day. Everyone come out, especially if you have kids, you'll be there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Judge, I just want to say one more thing. As you said, this budget has been a little unique the way you presented it to us, and you let us be a part of it, and I just appreciate your openness. It's a different process than I was used to, but I appreciate the way you handled it. It was very transparent, and I just appreciate the way you let us be a part of it.
Thank you.
Prior to getting it like that.
Appreciate that encouragement, and again, I know it's not all gone perfectly or smoothly, but I think this is my first budget too, so we'll clean it up more for next year, but I'm not going to clean up the openness. It's still we'll try to do even more to make sure that all of our magistrates and department heads and people that are and citizens that have input into it, that we'll do the best we can with that. So thank you. All right. Just want to remind that there's the next fiscal court meeting is the first Tuesday in May. That's May 9th. It will be at 3:30 p.m. And of course, we got the other public meetings, some of which some of the magistrates have already mentioned, listed on this page on the agenda if you're interested. All right. I believe that takes care of everything. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I don't hear any objections, so hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.